Got it. So are you, so when you're simulating these constellations, do you have like the firmware that like ostensibly some satellites running? And I mean, this sounds pretty involved. Like to be able to have all that in. I'll let you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's like the last phase of my actual research, really. So it's kind of broken up into three phases, and it's designed like this to eliminate as many questions later on down the line that I don't want to answer. Right. So the first phase is actually talking to different experts in the area of, post quantum encryption, satellite security, zero trust, though primarily those three domains, right? Those three specialties, and getting their feedback on some leading questions towards my research, not even telling them necessarily what the research is, but it's very leading, in the way that I ask them and whatnot, not to like get a certain answer, but to get a answer about a very certain thing without giving them specifics, essentially. And the second phase is the model phase that I just explained to you using PyTorch. And then the third phase is actually me buying a CubeSat for, I don't know, I think it's like $1,000 or something, buying a CubeSat, deploying their own firmware on it, and then deploying my security stuff on it and throwing attacks at it to see if it still holds up.
What's a CubeSat? Sorry.
Yeah, a CubeSat is probably the most common form of a satellite. Typically, like when you say satellite, you think like, oh, okay, it's as big as my garage. Like, I can't have one at home. Why would I ever have that? That's actually like very few of them. Like the imaging satellites, yeah, they're really big. But communication satellites are typically, anywhere from like 3U to 12Us. It can go bigger than 12Us, the same, like server rack sizing that we
Okay.
use. It's the same theory with that, right? So most of them are between like 3 and 12 U's, I think it is, in size. So it's pretty reasonable. So I'll just get like a 3U CubeSat and go from there.
Okay. And so you can just, again, I'm just, all this is new to me. So like, there's like, sounds like a company that just like manufactures things that are built for space and then throw your own firmware, whatever you want on it. So that's ostensibly how people are putting stuff into space. They're kind of the same way they put stuff on their network. Okay. I'm starting to see where the problems lie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Essentially people will buy these CubeSats to like test out their stuff, and they'll be like, okay, it mostly works. Now I'm going to go spend the 10 million to actually like build the satellite itself, and then we'll launch it,
Okay. But like, it's so like people are just putting whatever onto these things. Okay. I can see where I figured there was more layers of like, I don't know, like obfuscation or something in there. It's no,
Nah,
it's just a bunch of Linux boxes floating 1,000 miles up.
And once you get to it, you get to it. Like it's, there's no like, I didn't get in. It's like, no, you get to it. You're pretty much in.
Huh. Just okay.
I mean, think about the infrastructure that we have that runs off of it, right? Like, GPS, cell phones, financial transactions are validated through satellites sometimes. It's a lot of stuff when you start looking at it. It's like, oh, if someone were to attack us, like, yeah, they would easily just intercept all communications in the country,
I mean, Starlink and you've got, I don't know if you've seen them, but like there's a company called ASTS or something like that. But they're doing like, like cellular satellite stuff. I'm not totally sure, but yeah, I mean, it certainly seems like it also has like a lot of like, I could see cell communications going to satellite sooner than later in terms of it just makes a ton of sense. You don't have all like sort of the terrestrial issues with like terrain and everything. And you kind of always have access. And then I could see like, okay. Yeah. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. Cool. I had no idea I mean, that sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if I can pull it off. It's like once a week or once a month, I'm just like, man, I hope I can actually pull this off. Like, I don't know if I can do it, And then I talk to like other people that got their PhD, and they're like, yeah, that's a normal feeling. Like you don't actually know if you're going to pull it off, like really until you get the okay that you passed,
What, I mean, not to start an existential crisis, but like what happens if you like, I mean, if the fact that you can't, or like if something isn't able to happen, right? I mean, you're kind of also, like I forget if the term is like null hypothesis or something like that, but like you kind of like proved something didn't work. Is that still like a valid outcome in the eyes of, I don't know, the arbiters of PhD-ness, or like what happens? Do you have to like go back to square one? Like how do they manage that?
Yeah, so it's like if you test everything out and you validate the tests, and the people on your dissertation panel say like, yeah, like he couldn't have done anything differently to get a different result. Like that's just what it is. Then you can, write in and say like, okay, well, like this process, this entire method doesn't work. It's invalid. And you can still get your PhD on that.
Okay.
It's when like your research methods and how you're obtaining the information and all that sort of stuff isn't like valid, methods and sources and whatnot, that they'll basically take it away. And you're also on like a timeline, right? Or a time limit. So they want everyone to be done within like I think 5 years, which is pretty steep. But my university wants everyone done in like three, and they like start penalizing you if you go beyond three, which is interesting. I've heard of people going 10 years and they still didn't pass.
Wow.
So I don't know. I don't know about that, but typically it's like a 5 year time limit where you have 5 years to do this research topic. And if you don't, then you have to like re-justify why your research is still valid because someone else could have done it by then.
That's fair. Wow. Okay. No pressure.
Yeah, yeah, right. At least at least learning that I can be wrong and still pass, that gives me a little bit of comfort because I can be wrong,
I'm pretty good at it. Yeah.
Right, right. So, to kind of circle back, right, to your background, you talked about tinkering, which I just did a whole lot of that with my own desktop. It was very
Yeah.
frustrating. The
Doing
RAM
doing the
was
CUDA situation, man. I did that. Oh man.
Yeah, the RAM was like I put the RAM way too high and the timings were off and my computer was crashing just nonstop. I'm like, okay, fine. It has to go down, But I remember in the early beginning phases of my career, like I was super curious too. And I wasn't just a tinkerer, like I was definitely a professional breaker of things, at the company that was lucky enough to have me. I say I say that, as a joke, obviously, but it was interesting though because I approached it from how would a user interact with this product, right? Because the background is I was on the support team for a enhanced 911 application, right? That gave like exact information of where someone was when they dialed 911, something that didn't really exist prior to this solution, not to the same level and whatnot. And so I would just go through the solution and use it like my users would use it. And I would run into all these bugs. And I basically turned into like the support team QA person because I would always run into the most random problems. And there was like a policy on the support team. Like if you're running into something that makes zero sense, you've never seen it before. And if the engineer's never seen it before, just take it to Joe. Joe probably has notes on it. He'll walk you through it. And like 8 times out of 10, it was actually valid. One time a coworker of mine was trying to do an upgrade on a Linux server that had SE Linux enabled on it. And it was like fully deployed. Like I fully deployed it for them because they needed it, fully deployed, they thought. So I went and configured everything. It was configured properly. And he went to try and do an upgrade, brought everything down, couldn't bring anything back up. And it was getting blocked. And 2 hours later, he like reaches over, my desk and he's like, hey, have you seen where like all this stuff fails? Like it just won't start. And like the engineers were stumped and everything. I was like, I've seen that. What customer? And he told me, and I was like, well, did you turn off SE Linux? He goes, no. I was like, yeah, you need to turn it off. And here's the 20 commands you need to turn it off.
Okay. Just
But it's a
solving
good way to
problems.
learn.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That I mean that kind of mirrors some of the stuff that I did early bug crowd, right? Where I just even actually at the end too, like I just like people would still come to me and just be like, how can I find this like piece of like esoteric information? And I'm like, well, it's like the combination of like 19 different variables and it's in these 6 different sources and you pile them and then you figure it out. And so, yeah, cool. Okay.
Hmm. Do you think that that's like maybe like a good bug bounty method, right? When you're specifically going into, an environment, right? Like yesterday or maybe 2 days ago, I was looking at like, Meta's bug bounty on, I think it's like Bug Crowd or something like that, right? Or Hacker One. And I was just trying to think to myself, like, well, how would I even approach this going forward? Because it was talking about, I think like the Oculus, headset or something like that. what do you find to be the most effective method? Like, where do you get started with bug bounties?
Yeah, so I will caveat it by saying that I am not the world's best bug bounty hunter, probably not even the world's like 50,000th best bug hunter, right? So like I helped run and manage a lot of those programs, but I myself, and I've done some bug hunting, and again, I have my OSCP, so like I know how to like find vulnerabilities. So that's mostly the perspective that I'm bringing here, but I'm sure people far better at bug bounties can elucidate far more effectively on this topic. But I absolutely think that's kind of the right thing to do. I think that, I mean, that's probably a good place to start with almost everything is make sure you understand how it's supposed to work, and then you can go break it. Right. So, like, if I understand, okay, so like the application, like if I'm pen testing an application or whatever, right? I need to understand, okay, what should I be able to do and what is this supposed to do? And then that gives you some ideas around how you could abuse it or break it. If I'm supposed to, just use the classical like checkout process, right? If I'm supposed to, if this process is supposed to enable me to pay them money, then what if I could get it to pay me money? Or what if I could get it to pay them less money? And so you start building out like different use cases around, okay, what could I potentially do? Like, okay, I'm supposed to be able to view my account information. What if I can view somebody else's account information? What if I can update their information? And so I think that that's absolutely the best place to start. A lot of people don't necessarily do that because it feels like, a lot of people, you just, you're so fast out the building that you end up making three lefts and you end up where you started kind of thing where like, you just want to get going. That's fine.